Okay, new pasuk, Mishlei 21:7. Let me make this bigger. Shod Rishaim Yigorem Kime'anu Lasos Mishpat. Oh, I forgot to look up showed. I mean, I think I know what showed is. Anyone have a a guess? Interesting. Okay. I think it might be the same shorish, but it is not a demon. Unfortunately, that would be really epic. But yeah.
Plunder.
In fact, I just want to actually look at Al HaTorah just to see if I am right about the shorish of this. Let's see. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I am. Yeah. So it says on Al HaTorah, it says showed means violence, havoc, devastation, or ruin. And so Ibn Ezra says that the word shade demon comes from the word destruction because it showed him as hadas. It means that you're like messed up in your mind because he holds that demons are not real. And then I think people who do hold demons are real also hold it comes from that because they hold that demons are cause destruction. Like that's why Chazal call them mazikin, damagers. Yeah. So what did we just say? We said havoc, violence, havoc, devastation, ruin. Okay. So violence, havoc, devastation, ruin of the Rishaim, of the wicked. So here we have a machlokas. Okay. Yigorim, according to Al HaTorah, means to drag or to drag away. So drags them away. Okay. And then we'll see what Metzudas David says, or Metzudas Tion says in a little while. Ki me'anu lasos mishpat, for they refuse to do justice. Okay. Say again. Which word? No, you're saying because of gar. Like, yeah, yigorim. Does it have to do with that? So gar, your way is the short is gimel vav resh. And Al HaTorah is saying it's gimel resh resh. But I think, hold on, give me 1 second here. So yeah, I don't think there's a relationship. Always pays to ask questions like that though, because like if either it's a different shorish and now you clarify your definitions, or it's a related shorish and that sometimes sheds light on it. All right, so Tion translates it differently. He says Yigorim equals miloshin magur v'fachad. Okay, intimidation and fear. Magoras Rasha. Okay, so he translates the pasuk as the shod of the Rishaim will frighten them. That's very different. Okay, so either drags them or frightens them. Sadigon goes with the dragging one. Oshek Rishaim Yimshachem. Okay, so he says the oppression slash like wrongdoing, I guess, of the wicked, meaning not oppressing them, but like the oppression that they do. Yimshachem will drag them, like Mashicha with a chaf. Lefi shesarvu lekabel adin, because they refuse to accept the judgment. Okay, so that's an interesting interpretation of lasos. Lasos means to do. So the pasuk reads as they refuse to do justice, and Sadigon says they refuse to accept justice. What do you think? I obviously we're speculating here. What do you think prompts him to change the literal meaning of they refuse to do justice? Right. So first of all, Rishaim are not automatically in a position to execute justice, So like, if anything, they'd be on the other end. I was thinking similarly, it's not a chiddush to say that the Rishaim refuse to do justice. They're Rishaim, right? So like, why would we expect them to do justice? But so it might be one of those 2 points that is causing him to deviate. And that's why he's saying it's to accept justice. Okay, fine. Now I tried looking up the Targum and I could not get one word. So it says dichuna derashie. That's just a straight up translation. Ya'alinun. So I think ya'alinun comes from the word like ale, like to go up, or to bring up, or to benefit. I just don't know what that means. So I'm gonna ignore the Targum for now. Okay, then we have our English translations here, which are our scroll. The robbery of the wicked will cause them to fear. That's interesting. Cause them to fear. So they're probably getting that from the Metzudas David. But I took it as will. You know what's funny? You know, I when I first read this pasuk, I thought that the shorsh was gimel reish mem, which means to cause. I don't know if he's like if the article's trying to hedge its bets and saying cause and fear, like it's like, you know, putting them together. I don't know. But it is saying that not frighten them, but will cause fear. Cause them to fear. Oh no, it is frighten them. It's just a weird way of saying it. Yeah, I don't know why they're not just saying frighten. For they refuse to execute justice. Okay, fine. So that is the way we translated it. Living Knox says the stolen possessions of the wicked terrify them. So that's another meaning of showed is like loot or booty, like that someone steals, like pirates or like, you know, soldiers, like the stuff that they carry away from war. So that's another word for showed. The stolen possessions of the wicked terrify them, for they refuse to do justice. Okay. And then, you know what, I'm gonna actually list this here. Actually, you know, whatever. Hold on just a second here. Let's do it like this. Okay. Violent havoc ruin is one meaning. Sorry. Stolen possessions. All right, you know what, let's do it this way. Or stolen possessions. There we go. Okay. Drags them away. Okay. Or frightens them. Yeah. Okay, that way we can delete these. That's a good question. We'll actually list that as a question momentarily. For the refuse to do justice, and then alters as plunder. Actually, I like plunder better. Right. Yeah, thank you. To do justice or to accept justice. Yeah, you know what I feel like we need? We need a table. Right? I think that would make it clear. Right? So, or maybe not. Let's just try it out and see what it looks like. Okay. The violence, havoc, devastation, or ruin, or the plunder of the wicked. Okay. Double click. Drags them away. Okay. Or frightens them. Hold on. For they refuse to execute justice. Actually, I'm going to say do. To do justice. I'll say do execute. Execute, or for they refuse to accept justice. Okay, so now this way, the reason why I think a table is better, because now you can like mix and match at will, right? Yeah, that's using visuals to clarify learning. Okay. Okay, yeah, so we can now get rid of all this. Okay, so what was your question you asked, Ellie? How would the plunder frighten them? Yeah. How would stolen possessions frighten the wicked? Yeah. Yeah. What is showed? Okay. If it's referring to their actions, to their destructive actions, what destructive actions? If it's referring to stolen possessions, what kind? And you know what? Are you inclined to take either translation right now? Like if I asked you, like which one makes more sense to you? Yeah. So I would have been inclined to do that because of the Rishaim, but I'm inclined for the stolen possessions because of the previous pasuk that talked about stealing. Right. Yesterday's pasuk was about stealing, you know? So I feel like that might be also why it goes that way. Either of them are obviously fine translations. Okay. Yeah. Okay, what else? What is the Bible? Yeah. Yeah. So that I kind of wrapped into this. Yeah. What does it mean to be dragged? Yes. Okay. So what? Okay, good. So if Yigorem means to drag away, is to drag. What does that mean? How? From where? To where? So what? Yeah, okay. Yeah. If Yigorim is to frighten them. Actually, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and merge these two questions. Then how? Why? How would their own violent, destructive actions, or stolen possessions frighten them, right? Just kind of wrapping them both into these categories. I just want to make a methodology point really quickly. It's interesting that sometimes when you have, you know what, let me just, this part's not the methodology. This is just called closing Norton. Okay. Sometimes when you have multiple ways to translate a pasuk in Mishlei, you have to have completely different questions for the two translations. And I find that sometimes though, like you notice here in these questions 2 and 3, it's the same question. It's just like, you can just plug in the translation, you know? I don't know what point there is, but I'm just noting here that, like, you know, I find these easier because then you could just kind of, it's easier to keep the flexibility in your mind by just like swapping out one translation for another. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So this one, contrary to what I just said, let's split this into two questions. Okay. If me'anu la'asos mishpat means that the wicked refuse to execute justice, then how are they in a position to execute justice in the first place, right? And if they're wicked, why would we expect them to execute justice, right? They don't care about justice. And then if me'anu la'asos mishpat means that they refuse to accept justice, they refuse to accept justice, isn't this obvious? So we either have a problem, if you go with the first interpretation, then the hava amina is a big problem. Why would we expect them to execute justice? Well, actually, I guess in both cases, the hava amina is a problem, right? What's the hava amina?
We expect them to accept.
Yeah. So let's just collapse this into one question. What is the hava amina of me'anu la'asos mishpat? Okay, and then we'll break this down into two questions here. If it means that they refuse to execute justice, and if it means that, okay, yeah. Good. Okay. Are those all? Oh, and then key is a because, right, is a cause and effect relationship somehow, right? So what is the key to understanding the pasuk? What is the key? How is the second half an explanation of the first half? Yeah. Okay. I feel like that's, well, okay. And then our usual questions. Who is the audience of this pasuk? And what is the practical application? And here, the reason why this is a question we need to ask here is because presumably we're not talking to Rishaim because they never listen anyway. So are we talking to people who are on their way to becoming Rishaim, or are we talking to like would-be victims of Rishaim, like warning? Is Shlomo warning us about how the Rishaim are going to operate? You know, I think those are two candidates. Okay, let's try to figure this out.
I have a.
Yeah, let's do that.
I have like a half idea.
On translation. There we go. Okay.
Can you hear me?
So it might be saying since they refuse to do or accept justice, therefore their actions are going to be what causes their very destruction.
Right.
So I'm just trying to tie justice to it.
Yeah, right. So Ellie's attempting to answer the fifth question, which is how is the second half an explanation of the first? So because they refuse to execute justice, say again, because they refuse to execute justice, then that's
going to be what causes them. You know, like it just said, yeah, I think it's Mishlei.
But there's a screen.
Those who don't perform justice.
Right. Right. Yeah. So the interesting thing about that is that if you take Ugorim as frightens them, so then that would mean that they have to somehow recognize that they are not doing justice and sense that this could bring about harm, you know? Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah, Isaac, you're gonna have to just like, why don't you just use the hand raise feature? Okay. I assumed you were just waving to someone off screen or something like that until you went on for so long. Yeah.
Oh, well, I tried talking.
You're either on mute or your microphone's broken. You're not on mute, but your microphone's broken or something like that. I can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Can't hear you now.
I can hear him.
Maybe I'm on mute. Say it again. Try again.
Can you hear me now?
All right. Maybe Zoom muted me or muted you. Yeah. For some reason, Zoom. I don't understand this. Now try talking.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah. Okay. So this is the weird thing. Okay. Every time Zoom doesn't just reset it. It resets it to different points on the volume spectrum. Like this time it went all the way to the end. Usually it's in the middle. Sometimes it's like 1/3 of the way. I don't get it. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah,
say again.
I tried saying something.
Oh, okay, that's why you're
Yeah.
waving. I get it.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So I have like a partial idea.
Okay.
I have an idea, but I don't have an idea of what the mechanism would be.
Yeah.
So maybe it's okay. So the way I'm reading it is the plunder of the wicked drags them away, for they
Okay.
refuse to do/execute justice.
Yeah.
And the way that I think it's that as like because they try to accumulate plunder by not executing justice, that somehow drags them away from that plunder.
Okay.
Like, yeah.
So can you do you have any idea about what it means to execute justice? Like how would they execute justice, or what would like? I think if we're going to take that approach, both for Ellie or for Isaac, then we need to have some notion of like what it means. What justice could they be executing, and why are they not? Or like, what's the, what is this describing practically?
So I guess my first inclination is to say like justice in business, but I think the word that would normally be used is like honesty, right?
Yeah, correct. Yeah, and yeah, let me actually clarify that. So lasos mishpat means to like enforce the rules, right? So to give someone a punishment that they deserve, or to award money to someone who like it was stolen from. Yeah, Mati.
So I like that this is like a warning
Yeah.
to righteous people.
Yeah.
They're like hanging out with wrong people or something.
Right.
So it's that the violence, havoc, or devastation of the wicked frightens them, meaning like they're just like scared of who they are, to the point that they're just like scared to be not, bad people. That's why they do the things they do. And they do these things because they refuse to be just. They refuse to be honest with themselves or with society.
Mm-hmm.
The only reason why they're doing the way they do is because of these bad traits that they have.
Okay, so give me. I think I'm picking up on your intuitive drift here. Give me an example of like what type of person you have in mind, like in a contemporary example.
Contemporary?
Yeah. It doesn't have to be contemporary. I'm just like.
I'll take a school bully.
Okay, right. So we're not.
About himself, needs to put other people.
Right. So we are not talking about someone who's like a full-fledged like professional Russia, right? We're talking about someone who is pressured in, or not pressured, who is caught up in doing like Rashaim type actions,
Right.
right? And then you're saying, just sorry, say your idea again. Now that I have a concrete.
To like either to help himself realize what is wrong with him as he's going down this path.
Yeah.
And it's serving as a warning to people who are not yet in this stage.
Okay. Yeah, I like that approach. Did you take a stance on which of the you're saying that it's talking about doing or executing justice, or to accepting? Yeah.
I don't know if it makes a difference.
So I if anything, I think it's, according to your approach, it's not for they refuse to do justice, because I do think that in other words, in order to refuse or do in order to execute or do justice, you have to be in a position to do so. Like that was like your initial observation. So for that, I feel like we could be talking about someone who is in some form of leadership role, like a king or a judge or like a boss, or maybe even a parent, someone who can implement a punishment, and they're refusing to do that. So yours seems to be more on the second line, or on the second translation.
If they refuse to accept what's right.
But see, this is also not refusing to accept what's right. This is refusing to accept a punishment or a consequence that they were given. That's justice. Yeah. We have to, both for the reason like Isaac was saying, and for what he's saying, we have to bear in mind what mishpat means. In fact, let me just read. It's a very quick definition that the Rambam has of mishpat. I know I'm not sharing the screen. This is just one sentence. Okay, all the way at the end. Mishpat means, according to the Rambam, where are we? Mishpat refers to the proper administration of the law to the person being judged, regardless of whether the outcome is beneficial to him or whether it is retribution. This is in the Nebuchim 3:53. Okay, so like mishpat means like carrying out the law. Okay, so that's why if it is they refuse to accept justice. So we also have to figure out if they refuse to accept justice, like what does that mean?
Justice is also like a mechanism for redemption. So maybe it's like.
What kind of redemption do you mean?
I was just thinking about
Yeah.
It's like for talking about Aiden Zolman.
Right.
And it says like that someone who kills the mazes, but there's no witnesses tell him not to.
Yeah.
We don't send him into Gullus, and then one of the things that the reason why we don't send him into Gullus is because Gullus is a form of redemption.
Interesting. Yeah, you're definitely correct. In Judaism, mishpat is not just not purely a matter of societal regulation. It is also a rehabilitative thing to like help the person who did wrong. Yeah. So, but right. Okay, so that's answering the question I was about to just ask here. The question I just added to this was, what does it mean that they refuse to accept justice? Meaning, like, let's say you are a Russia and you do something that like gets the death penalty. What are you gonna do? Just say no, So it must either be talking about a type of justice that they must voluntarily submit to. Like, let's say the court tells you you have to pay so and so like the amount of money that you stole, and you refuse to do that, or it must mean, like Mati's saying, that they refuse to like accept the implications of the justice of like realizing, okay, I did wrong, I'm going to use this for doing tshuva, something like that. Yeah, Ellie?
So I was wondering earlier, like why said the violence,
yeah,
the ruin of the wicked? Why not just say the actions of the wicked?
Right.
Like that's almost like implied.
Yeah, and also that would be the broader category, like
Yeah, but if we're going based off this understanding of justice, that it's kind of this mechanism used to bring order and structure.
Yeah.
The refusal of justice would kind of lead to violence.
Oh, right. So ki me anulasos mishpat. So in fact, it almost reads better if you flip the halves of the pasuk. So since the Rishaim refused to accept justice, therefore their destructive actions will drag or frighten them.
Right. I don't know.
Or yeah.
In terms of the actions being like violent and or destructive.
Yeah.
In line with the idea of justice being.
Right. A lot of moving parts here. I had an idea, I think, or not a full idea, just a half-baked idea. Let me just see if I can articulate it here. Showed Rishayim Yigorem Kimi Anulas Mishpat. I'm going to just throw this out here. I don't know if this is relevant, and I also don't know if I want to go back to yesterday's pasuk. But yesterday's pasuk was Pol Atzaros Piloshon Shakir Hevel Nidaf Mavakshem Maves. So the worker, or the worker literally of treasuries, one who works. Let me just open up the document from yesterday. Yeah, that was the approach we were taking. So we were saying one who works treasuries with a tongue of falsehood, pummel nothingness, seekers of death, right? So one of the possibilities we threw out there was that either you're working at a bank or like with a tremendous amount of money, or you are somehow like in a custodian position of that, or like a managerial position. So what was I thinking that? Oh, so let's say, maybe this doesn't work out. So I was thinking, let's say I am a person who is who's the boss of a company that is dealing with or a business that's dealing with lots and lots of money or goods. Okay. And let's say you're one of my workers. Okay. So yesterday's pasuk is about you trying to skim off the top. Okay. And today's pasuk would be about me turning a blind eye to that because somehow it benefits me. That's me refusing to do justice. Meaning, if I were a responsible boss, then I would prevent you from stealing. But if somehow this benefits me, then I'm going to turn a blind eye and like allow this operation to go on underneath my nose. Kind of like what reminds me of is like in I think in a lot of like prison systems or like military things, then the officers have their own racket going on, to like profit off of stuff. In fact, a good example of this is the movie American Gangster. Remember seeing it? So it's based on a true story. Denzel Washington and Russell Crowe. And Russell Crowe is a straight cop. Like, he's honest and stuff. And the movie opens with him finding I haven't seen it in a long time. It's a great Mishlei movie. I think the movie opens with him finding a ton of like some drug. I don't remember if it was cocaine or something like that. And he turns it in. And all of the police officers like hate him because in his precinct, it's so corrupt that what they would do is they would all like go and basically like not report it, and like they would sell it on the black market, and then they would all profit from it, So like they are in the position where they should be executing justice, but they're not. They're profiting from it, or a judge who like should be executing justice, but he accepts bribes, like that's the feeling I'm getting from they refuse to execute justice. And then the audience of the pasuk would be not full-fledged Rishayim, but people who are in positions where they are regarded or entrusted with justice, but instead they do wicked things for plunder, So what does it mean that it'll frighten them? See, okay, I'm gonna try this out, okay? So let's say I'm a judge, okay? And I'm really supposed to be executing justice, but instead I'm taking bribes, okay? Now, what's gonna happen is I, more than anyone, have knowledge of what could happen to me if I get caught, because I'm in the justice system, So in fact, okay, I'm gonna try this out. Okay, I have a theory, that sometimes people ask the question about why does Mishlei use ambiguous terms, like if there are terms that have like multiple and opposing translations, why would he use multiple? Why wouldn't he use a clearer word? So there are several answers to that question, but one of the answers is he uses ambiguous terms to incorporate multiple ideas. But the other answer is he's trying to capture both meanings. So maybe he says Yigorem because it can mean it will draw or drag him, but it will also frighten him. So if I'm a judge and I'm in a position where I'm entrusted with justice and I refuse to do it for some self-serving reason, so on the one hand, I will become addicted and drawn into this behavior because I can get away with it. I'm the one, I don't have to worry about getting caught because I'm the one who's supposed to be doing the catching, But on the other hand, part of me does realize that I could get caught, and that frightens me, or should frighten me, You hear what I'm saying here? So the idea, let me try putting it all together now. So the pasuk is talking to people who are entrusted with executing justice, but they're refusing to do so because they want plunder. Okay, they want some sort of like benefit, you know. I think showed also means bribe now that I think about it.
Says of the wicked.
Yeah, because these are because the person who's in this position is wicked, you know, and it's a different kind of wicked than the full-fledged Russia. It's a person who's wicked because they are responsible to do justice and they're doing the opposite of justice. They're facilitating injustice.
So how does drag them away or fighting that?
So because I'm just going to go with this judge bribery example. So if I'm a judge and I am supposed to be executing justice, but I'm taking bribes, so it's a very addictive sort of racket because no one is going to catch me because I'm the one who's supposed to be doing the catching. So I'm going to keep on being drawn into stealing more and more and more and more, you know, but it ought to frighten me because if I'm caught, the consequences are far worse for me than a regular criminal because I'm supposed to be the one who's doing justice. Yeah. Does the idea make sense? Or like, is it clear? Okay.
Does frightened then mean the
Yeah.
pasuk?
Yeah. Whoever we say the Rishayim are, then that's the one who it frightens.
Doesn't frighten other people.
Right. Yeah. Because Yigorim means Yigore Osam. It frightens the very same people. All right. Should we look at meforshim? Okay. You know, it's funny because I was I forgot if I mentioned this already, but I was looking at last year. You know, last year's Mishlei serum at one point, and like last year we averaged one pasuk a day, and sometimes we had 2-day pesukim. And the reason why is because there were only 2 or 3 people in the shir, you know, and it's not bad. You know, I feel like if there are lots of people, we get the benefit of having lots of ideas and perspectives, but it takes longer, you know. And if there are fewer people, then we move faster. So I'm just realizing that today. It's been a long time since we've done a pasuk in a day, 2 consecutive days in a row. Yeah. Okay. So let's start off with our friend the Mitzudas David. I bet he doesn't say much. Okay, showed is bottom right. Showed hagezel atzmo yavi aleim pachad. So the stolen items themselves bring them fear. So okay, well, okay. Himianu yasa lasos mishpat lahashiv hagezel lavalav. To return. Oh, there you go. That fits in really well. To return the stolen object to its owner. You know, so that makes sense. Okay, if I steal an object, then on the one hand I'm benefiting, but as long as I have possession of this object, I could drive by giving it back, but the main threat is I could get caught holding on to this object, you know? So what's interesting about it is like, it comes with like a liability, you know, like when I steal it, it comes with liability unless I flip it really fast. Yeah. You know, I don't think the moral conundrum is what is going on in the pasuk here, because otherwise I don't think it would use the word fear. Like it would be like guilt or something like that, you know? Yeah.
Is it possible that fear is what comes from justice? Like, justice is what frightens them, so they don't do justice? Or no? I think that doesn't make sense.
Oh, maybe that might work out, right? Because he's saying kimiano lasos mishpat because they are afraid to return the lost object to the owner. Yeah. Okay. So in other words, like this. Okay, I know I used this example I think earlier in the year, but I'll use it again. That time that I came into my dorm room in the old yeshiva building and saw that someone had punched a hole in my wall, and I was upset, and like my roommate and I tried to like figure out who did it, and like we couldn't figure it out, and then like months later, then the guy confessed, and I said, "Why didn't you tell me?" And he said, "I was afraid what your reaction would be," you know. So maybe you're right about the moral compass thing, but it's coming from the fact that let's say I steal something, right? And then I regret it. So now what should I do is I should return it. However, there's a problem, which is if I return it, that also is going to involve like fessing up to the deed. And I'm afraid of what the person is going to say, you know? So it's ironic that like the act of evil not only was bad, but it itself serves as an obstacle to rectifying the situation. You know, there are certain acts. Well, okay, let me think about it this way. If you do a hate bein adam lamakom, between you and God, you can do tshuva without this problem, because tshuva there just implies you correcting yourself and then committing not to doing it again. But if it's being adam l'chavero, and it involves an actual like action, not some abstract like apology of like hurting their feelings, but an actual like, I mean, to a certain extent, it's any being adam l'chavero. But like, if I have to actually go and like say like, yeah, I stole your something, then that's an obstacle. Like people, in other words, this guy here may be willing to, like, if there were a way where he could return the lost object without being identified as such, then he would probably take that option. But you can't always do that, So if you're in a position where you have to do this, there is a fear associated with returning it, with returning it, and there's a fear associated with keeping it. Maybe I can actually say both options. That if you keep it, there's a chance you're going to get caught, and that causes you fear. But if you return it, that also causes you fear about what the person's reaction will be. So now you're in a quandary. So what do you do? I mean, is this saying therefore you shouldn't steal in the first place? Yeah, but it's interesting because it's a specific audience. This is not going to be aimed at someone who has no intention of returning it. This is aimed at someone who's going to do an impulse steal. Right. But I'm saying it's aimed at someone who's on the fence, who might engage in stealing. But what do you call? I mean, the other thing also, by the way, okay, what's the difference between gezel and geneva? Yeah, openness versus secrecy, right? So gezel is robbery and geneva is theft where the person doesn't know it. I feel like sometimes when pesukim talk about gezel and geneva, they use it loosely. I can't imagine that this is armed robbery. At least according to the way we're saying it. Like, it really means if I hold you up at gunpoint and then take something and then I feel regret, I want to give it back. Like, that doesn't really like jive with that, If we do take it that way, then we got much bigger problems on our hands. Yeah.
So there's this idea, that when people are doing things in secrecy, cause them to be much more paranoid.
Yeah, right. Because part of the very crime is contingent on you not getting seen. So you're always gonna be worried, did someone see me? Am I looking suspicious?
I like the audience of like people like who are on the fence. Like if you do this, it's just like a self-destructive.
Right.
It's just gonna circle back on itself.
Right.
There's no like easy way out of it.
Right, and just to give a more concrete case here, we have to remember how easy it is to do geneva in halacha. That like even like using stuff without the owner's permission can be a form of geneva. Like obviously it's a different thing if like the person has a if like you guys have an understanding or something like that. But like if I just go into your room and use something without your permission, that partakes of geneva. And like, let's say I do that, and let's say I borrow something. Oh, here's a common example. Okay, let's say I go into your room and borrow something without asking, and then I forget about it, and then a while later, like I see you really mad, and you're like, who stole my blah blah blah? Now I'm in this position where like, oops, like I accidentally did geneva, and like the right thing to do would be to like return it, but now I'm afraid of your reaction. But as long as I keep it, then you're gonna get, then you might like find it out, and then you're gonna get even more angry. Yeah. I just want to look at some other meforshim, not because I want to abandon this idea, but because I want to see if anyone else takes the similar approach, and that might help us clarify. Let's look at Rביnu Yona. Okay, left column 3 down. Showed Rishaim Yigoreim Kiman Alasos Mishpat Beshekel Tisucheni Bebetin Imi. All right, that's just explaining a grammar point. Ki ein, next page. Ki ein derech haresh l'kabel ha'degashus v'hu k'inyan megoreres b'magre. Okay, fine. So he's talking. That's a grammatical point. Let's see how he actually explains it. Uber inyan, the explanation of the pasuk. Milvad onesh harishayim be'es sheyigzlu v'yachamasu. Aside from the punishment for the Rishayim when they steal and do violence, or when they rob, Yachrisim Shodam, their stolen objects will cut them off, meaning will like have a bad effect on them. Kasher Yavium Ad HaElokim, or I don't know if this is Elokim or Elohim, V'lo Yishma'u Legeshes Ela Mishpat, and they don't listen, they don't obey to approach justice. I got to read it. See what happens. Their sin will be doubled. The kiflayim, it'll be doubled and redoubled. Kasher ya'izu pneim lefanos oref el hashofet, when they brazenly turn their face away, their neck away from the judge.
Doesn't the double of punishment mean open? Supposed to like stealing?
Well, he's saying double the punishment because it sounds like they are getting caught and then they're refusing to accept the judgment from the judge. But I don't know what he means by that. Well, I'm going to read the whole thing. Talking the first, it's possible to explain. I don't know if this is a completely different explanation. That this is talking about like bullies. An aritz is a bully, and balei gaiva, and haughty people. That if they have some like a monetary case with somebody, and they don't go to the court summons, and they only do what they see fit. A person doesn't see his own liability. Kasher amruzal, like Chazal say, therefore the stumbling block will be in their possession. And the second idea, or second reason, if the law happens to be in accordance with them, then they will get punished for not coming to justice. So the case he's describing here is like this. Let's say, yeah. Yeah, right. Yeah, so he's going with you refusing to accept justice. Right, so like the case is like this. Let's say I am I don't know, we used our mafioso example from yesterday. Let's say I'm a mafioso and you are a regular citizen, okay? And like I cheat you out of business, okay? And you want to take me to court, okay? But I'm an intimidating guy, or I'm a haughty guy and I say it's beneath me and I refuse to go to court. So there's two problems. Number one, not only did I do injustice by stealing, but I also do injustice by refusing to come to court. And even if the law is with me, like let's say the judge awards me the money on a technicality, so I still am refusing to go to justice. And there's an imperfection in submitting to justice. And what did he say before? He said, and I'm doing injustice by going according to my own perception and saying like I'm right because this is my my action.
But who's the audience supporting?
Yeah, who's the audience? The audience. Well, he's saying the audience is either an aritz, which is an intimidating person, or a bal gaiva, someone who's haughty. But both of them in terms of people who refuse to go to the judge.
But is it like to help them find their path? Like,
I don't know. All right, here's what I think we should do, by the way. I think what we should do is spend an additional day on this because I feel like this is within our grasp to like get answers. And then I would not be surprised if people do connect this to yesterday's, and then I could kind of alleviate the guilt of like not going to the meforshim in yesterday's, you know. So let's aim to do that for tomorrow. Okay. All right. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Yeah.